Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, say, Monday, March 9th, 2026. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host, folks. Do you know that today is National Barbie Day? In other words, Barbie Doll Day. So before coming on air, I canvassed the entire staff of Rebel News headquarters here in Toronto. And the question was this: did my co-host, as a little girl, play with Barbies? There were three options. One, yes. Two, no. Three, sort of. In other words, she used Barbie dolls for target practice. Before I tell you the result of the poll, I'm going to introduce her right now and get her answer. And she would be the sensational Sheila Gunn Reid, the she-devil with a sword, the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. No real-life Barbie here. Sheila Gunn Reid, what is the answer?
No, we were too poor for Barbies. Not that I would have played. We were too poor for Barbies. Not that I would have played for them. But yeah, we didn't have them. I had to play with my brother's toys, and I think it reflects on my personality to this day.
I never thought, okay, hypothetical question, and I know politicians loathe answering hypothetical questions. You're not a politician, but one day you'll run for Senate. If you had a Barbie doll as a little girl, you'd play with it, not play with it, or shoot it?
Well, I probably wouldn't shoot it, but no, because we had like real life things that we could shoot, and beer cans and things like that, right? Stop signs, all the fun things that country kids shoot at. No, I probably wouldn't have. I just didn't. It doesn't interest me. Didn't really interest my daughters either. I gave them the option. They just were not remotely interested. So no. What was the office poll?
Oh, it was a two-way tie between no and she used it for target practice.
Fair enough.
Only one person said yes, Sheila Gunn Reid, as a little girl, played with Barbie dolls.
No.
And by the way, there was a branch-off poll. It wasn't my question, but it was, how old do you think Sheila Gunn Reid is? Because I think Barbie goes back to 1959. Sheila, I'm going to tell you, the best guess for you was 30. I think you might be a little...
Who said that?
Maurizio.
Good man. No, tell Maurizio I have a kid that's older than him.
So it is biologically impossible for you to be the age of 30, given that.
No,
okay.
Completely. Yeah.
All right, then. Well, there you go. Happy National Barbie Day, nevertheless, Sheila Gunn Reid.
Yes, I have a kid approaching 30, so I'm quite flattered. This day got much better. We should tell everybody what we're doing around here. Thank you for that, David.
You're welcome.
Before we get into the show, the show started off delightful, didn't it? And always am apprehensive when I'm hosting with David. It could be a difficult show from the get-go, not because David's a difficult man. It's because I'm the brakes and he's the gas pedal, if you know what I mean. Anyways, I'll tell everybody what we're doing, how they can get involved in the show. You know what? Put your best guess for my age in the chat. I want to see what you guys think. It's of course Rebel Roundup, which means we want you involved in the show. So if you're watching us on Rumble, that's a wonderful free speech platform. If you want to leave a Rumble rant, that's their paid chat over there. It helps support the show, and we give you something in return. We give you your say. So if your Rumble rant is over the $5 US cutoff, it's obligatory. We're reading it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our very best, time permitting. And I can't remember if David's got a caper to get to after this. But if regular viewers of the show know that we frequently read the ones that fall underneath that. If you're watching us on YouTube, which remains a censorship platform, by the way, and we are remonetized over there, and it remains a mystery to me how that happened and how we stay that way. But if you want to leave a super chat, that's their paid chat. Same rules apply, but there's also one more way that you can support us. So let's say you missed the live version of the show, but you also want to guess my age and you want everybody to see your guess. You can leave a paid comment called a super thanks. So I think that's it. Let's get into the news of the day.
And Sheila, if I may, on your guess your age thing, I'm going to recuse myself from that. Guessing a lady's age is fraught with danger. And one last thing on age and guessing. When the Hudson's Bay Company was still around, on Tuesday it was Seniors Day, meaning that if you were 55 and older, that was their definition of a senior. So I went there to buy some shirts on a Tuesday, and the young clerk was behind the counter, and I said, I guess I get the 10%. And he says, yes, you do, sir. And I said, I suppose you want to see some government ID to show I'm over 55. He went, oh, no, not necessary.
Ouch.
Ouch. I go,
right in the
what?
feels. I know.
Okay.
It was a hectic weekend in Toronto, but also in Montreal and some of the more progressive places of this country, where the weekly hate marches run amok. And the hate marched again. But before we get to that, we've got Ezra Levant running out on short notice to a press conference after a synagogue, yet another one. 3 in 5 days was shot up in Toronto. And this is great from Ezra. But Toronto Star, being the Toronto Star, said, "Oh, so the synagogues are being shot up. Aren't you worried about Islamophobia?" Let's watch the clip.
You know, I put my 3 questions, and I'm glad I had a chance to do so. I think it's because the press conference was outdoors, so it would be much harder to stop me from attending, as opposed to the Toronto police who like to throw Rebel News out of press conferences. But I was standing next to a reporter from the Toronto Star, and I didn't catch his name. I'll try and look it up. So we've just had 3 synagogues in 5 days being shot terrorist style. It's a 5-alarm fire. And I swear to God, this Toronto Star reporter, he asks if the police are worried about a rise in Islamophobia.
Just wondering if there's been an uptick in attacks against the Muslim community as well. I heard from the National Council of Canadian Muslims that there has been an uptick. I was going to confirm with you if there has been, and if the same sort of deployment of officers is going to be towards that community. It's a very complicated issue.
Yeah, I think you raise an important point for how we deploy our members, and we deploy our members throughout the city to meet the threats that we face throughout the city, and that will also continue. We have been visiting with members of the Muslim community as required, and we have had engagement that has spoken to their community concerns as well.
You couldn't script a more woke Toronto Star question. You're at a press conference at a synagogue with bullet holes in the window. 3rd synagogue attacked in 5 days, and the Toronto Star, hey man, what are we doing about all this Islamophobia? Yeah, that's the Toronto Star for you.
Sheila, I know the year is young. Joke. Oh, I know the year is young, but that already qualifies as the most stupid question of 2026. The name of the reporter is Amarachi Amadike. I don't know if he's a dyke, but that's what his surname is, Amadike. And I love Sue Ann Levy's comment. She says, clearly he's not good at reading the room. And Sheila, I can tell you, our beloved producer, Efron, printed off the article, because I will not spend 1 nickel to buy the Toronto Star. That would be like overpaying by 4 cents. Anyways, I read through the article, and all the typical just the facts, Jack. And finally, the 3rd last paragraph, Amadike brings it up. And this is what he says, quote, "This weekend's attacks targeted the Jewish community, but DemQ confirmed to the Star that there has been an increase in hate crimes against members of the Muslim community as well," end quote. You know what, Sheila? That is so disingenuous. The only reason DemQ, and I'm no DemQ fan, brought that up was an answer to his ludicrous question at a shot-up Jewish synagogue about Islamophobia. So there you go. There is your tax dollars hard at work in creating disinformation and misinformation.
Yeah, he did the Norm Macdonald joke.
Yeah.
You know the Norm Macdonald joke? I put it in the chat, Olivia, from 2016, and it remains true to this day. Dearly departed Norm Macdonald. He said, "What terrifies me is if ISIS were to detonate a nuclear device and kill 50 million Americans. Imagine the backlash against peaceful Muslims." And that guy did the joke. without a sense of irony. He did you're literally standing at a synagogue. The third one shot up in 5 days.
Yep.
And that's just in 5 days. That's not the girls' school that's been shot at twice. That's not the other Islamophobic attacks. That's not the fist fights that break out on the lawns of synagogues when talking about real estate developments. He did the joke. He did the joke.
Yep.
And he is the joke.
You know, in the journalism business, Sheila, this is the old chestnut of asking a man, do you beat your wife? Or
Right.
how often do you beat your wife?
When did you quit? When did you quit beating your wife? And
Right.
it's like, what?
And then whatever the answer is, it like Amadike writes, so-and-so confirmed that he no longer beats his wife because, well,
Right.
he never did. You asked him a
Right.
stupid loaded question. But this is shocking. And it just shows you how the fix is in when it comes to the Jewish community. We have seen for 2.5 years now, Sheila, all the chestnuts. Hate has no home here.
Right.
Our hearts go out to the Jewish community. Well, you know what? Hate does have a home here. And what goes out to the Islamist community who are chanting genocide? Well, it's Timbits and coffee on cold days. And once again, noticeable by her absence, Sheila, Mayor Chow.
Yeah.
Where the hell was she? You know what? I actually thank Mayor Chow. Thank you for proving how you're on Team Hamas and you don't give a rodent's rectum about the Jewish community. We have an election in October. I hope people who are on the side of civilization rather than savagery and people who really do want to reach out to the bullied Jewish community will remember that when it comes to this odious mayor.
You know, they should just run Ben Bankus as Olivia Chow in the next election, and would anybody know the difference?
Well, you know what, Sheila, that's an interesting question because Ben Bankus was due to play a comedy show in Kitchener, Ontario, and guess
Yep.
what? Canceled, had the rug pulled out from under his feet. And the thing is, this is what I love about the karma when it comes to
Yep.
cancel culture. Yeah, you prevented a few hundred people from hearing Ben Bankus live. Guess what you did to his social media audience? It went through the roof. So thank you to all the cancel culture Karens out there. You're making him more famous than Ben Bankus could ever dream of being.
They're doing the same thing to my friends, the Danger Cats. You know, Alberta venues are canceling those guys. They get the hate mob after them. You know what you do if you don't like them? Don't go.
Yep.
It's really easy. You just don't go. By the way, Lisa and I are going to try to get tickets to Ben's show in Lethbridge in the middle of the month. So if you're going to that show, hopefully we'll see you there. If tickets are still available.
Sheila, I would say this. If you can get canceled in a little town in northern Saskatchewan for having the temerity to show the Millennia documentary, you can be canceled anywhere in this country, sadly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's keep going on the same topic because unlike that lunatic who works for the Toronto Star, Ezra was at the press conference to get 3 good questions in, and he actually pinned the police chief down on this because at first they said it was random violence. But Ezra got the police chief to admit it was a targeted anti-Semitic attack. What a strange thing in this day and age that you would have difficulty saying that when somebody shot up a synagogue. But anyways, Ezra was able to get them to actually say the reality of the situation at a police press conference.
Chief MQ Ezra Levant from Rebel News. A couple days ago, your new deputy chief compared a synagogue shooting to a random act of violence on the subway. He also said that there are so many other demands, it's not like he can move police resources to this file. Do you stand by his statements that this was a random act of violence as opposed to an organized, targeted terror event? And do you agree with him that you just can't move resources to this?
Well, as far as the investigation goes, listen, not something that when it's this active, the chief's going to comment on specifics. We'll follow the evidence, we'll present the evidence as it becomes available. And what's important is to recognize that we will make every resource necessary available, not just to the investigators, but also to our uniformed, visible presence that's required to not only help our communities feel safe, but to do everything we can to ensure the safety of our communities.
You didn't answer my question. I'm asking if this was a targeted anti-Semitic attack or, as your new deputy says, a random act of violence. Why won't you answer that?
No, I think it's very clear this was targeted at a synagogue. It's very clear.
Okay, well, I'm glad you corrected your deputy.
Very clear about the anti-Semitic nature and the hateful nature of this act. And we will not stand for it, and we will not tolerate it.
Will you deploy a police officer here like York Region has done as well?
We have provided police officers here extensively. We'll continue to do that. We are committed to doing that. We have been since October 7th, and we'll continue to maintain that presence and increase it as required.
You know, Sheila, it's worse than you think, because both York Region, because in Thornhill, a synagogue was shot up there, and in Toronto, the police in their media release used the words, a building was shot at.
Just a building.
Yeah, what, an A&W franchise, a shoe
Right.
store? I mean, now, I'm just hypothesizing here, but Sheila, if that had been a mosque shot up, is the lead buried? Is it just, a building, a random building? This is, again, more proof in the pudding that the fix is in when it comes to anti-Semitism in the Greater Toronto area.
Well, we know how the government would react if it were a mosque, even if it were a hate hoax, as was the case with the hijab hoax.
Good point.
You had statements from the Prime Minister about just the horrors of the anti-Muslim sentiment on the Canadian streets, and it wasn't even real. That was a complete fabrication, that a little girl's hijab had been snipped at by Caucasian man, or sorry, they said Asian man.
Yes.
The little girl did. And I've always thought that, she didn't know the word Caucasian. Someone
Yes.
had told her to say Caucasian, and she didn't know the word, so she said Asian. And then that triggered, this wave of bile directed at the Asian community when absolutely none of it was true. And the politicians whipped it up.
And you know what, Sheila? I think that is Ezra's theory too, that she meant to say Caucasian and
Ezra stole
screwed
that
up
from
the
me.
delivery. Yeah, just shortening it to Asian.
Yeah.
And what was incredible, you had the Prime Minister flying in from Ottawa, you had the mayor at the press conference, the premier. It was a jammed affair. And in the aftermath, when it was all revealed, this was one big nothing burger. No, it was worse. It was an outright hoax. I'll never forget the pathetic Bernie Farber writing in Now magazine. He's with the anti-hate organization, which are the most hateful people in this country.
Life
saying,
ruiners.
and it wasn't an apology. It wasn't that we screwed up. His words, I'm paraphrasing, well, it could have happened, so that's why we
Right.
should call out Islamophobia. Can you believe this?
By the way, nobody is saying that you shouldn't call out Islamophobia, but you also shouldn't make it up.
Yes.
You're right. We've got Roman Baber.
Oh, boy.
He's the MP for York Centre. He refused to comment on this. He used to be a brave man. And, I like his work in the House of Commons, but he is the cowardly lion when it comes to dealing with independent media. He refused to make a comment on the recent synagogue shootings, which is odd because I could make all kinds of comments. Just, but the Toronto police aren't doing enough. The Mark Carney's not doing enough. This is what happens when you allow in a bunch of unvetted people from disagreeable places. I'm not saying that we shouldn't allow in real refugees, but we should be stress testing them for our Western values. And anyways, he couldn't muster any of those statements. So let's see what he has to say.
Do you want to say a few words about what's going on?
No, that's right. Thank you.
You know what, Sheila? Portrait of an ingrate. Roman Baber is the only Conservative in the 416 area code, Toronto. Why would that be? Do you think maybe, and admittedly I can't prove it, that we went to war with Yara Sachs, that loony liberal, the woman who said that honking your horn twice is a code for Heil Hitler? She said an acronym, so this moron doesn't even know what an acronym is. This guy has what I think rebel derangement syndrome, Sheila.
No, I don't think he has rebel derangement syndrome.
I think
he's
so.
I think he's the cowardly lion. And look, we went to war against Yara Sachs because Yara Sachs is a crazy person, and she said some crazy things about the convoy, and she took that picture, that like first date, got to second base, hand-holdy picture with a terrorist.
Yeah.
So we went to war with her for that. He doesn't owe us anything, but I think he does owe the people of York Center a statement, and they obviously listened to us because they didn't vote for Yara Sachs. So if you want to talk to the people of York Center who got you elected, you might want to give us a statement because we know they're turning into us for their news.
No, Sheila, I respectfully disagree with you. I think he is full of rebel derangement syndrome. When he was an MPP, I literally bumped into him in the hallway of Queen's Park. And he was taking a righteous stand there. And I said, Mr. Baber, I'd love to set up an interview if you got 10 minutes. And he said, David, you know how it works. I go, what works? You know how it works, an interview request. You got to reach out to my people. I go, I'm reaching out to you. Needless to say, that interview didn't happen. And Sheila, in the dog days of the election last April, I, by chance, bumped into Roman Baber at Country Style Donuts on Wilson Heights Boulevard. I had no idea his office was nearby. Sheila, he was breaking out in a sweat. All I was saying was, hey, Mr. Baber, how you doing? Are you going later tonight to the Pierre Poilievre rally in Vaughan? And he was actually stammering. He was going, am I being recorded right now? I go, no, I'm just making conversation. Are you sure? Like, you're right, cowardly lion, but what's driving the cowardice is he doesn't want to be anywhere near Rebel News for reasons that are unexplainable to me. And that damn ingrate didn't have a word of thanks. We were scrumming Yara Sachs every second month. We deployed our truck, and this guy doesn't care. In fact, it's the opposite. He resents us. So, good luck to him in the next election, I guess.
Again, I don't need him to be grateful for us. We didn't do it for him.
That'd be nice.
But the stars of the Conservative Party don't have a problem talking to us. How many times is Rempel on Ezra's show?
Yep.
She's got all the time in the world to sit down and talk to us, along with all the other MPs. So, the brave MPs working hard for Canadians, they know that their base watches us. They don't have a problem talking to us. So when he says, you know how it works. Yeah, we do. We could just text them and they'll talk to us. So
Sheila, that's not Baber. And I can tell you, post-election, I phoned up to A, congratulate him, and B, ask him a question. I don't even know what the issue is. It's not important. He cut me off in mid-sentence and he said, reach out to communications at my constituency office. Hung up the phone.
I think he's just generally scared of us. Because he knows that if he does something not conservative, we'll rough him up real good like we did to Jason Kenney. I think he's scared of us, and that's probably a good thing. But again, if you want to communicate directly to the people of York Center, you might want to talk to us because they listened to what we had to say about the former MP there, and he's the MP there now because of us. And by the way, we went real hard on Doug Ford.
Yep.
For how Doug Ford treated him.
Yep.
We went up one side of Doug Ford and down the other for how Roman Baber was treated. So he should grow some cojones and talk to independent media because it's just a terrible look. It's just such a bad look.
Clearly, it's what have you done for me lately? And even if you do me a solid, I don't care. You are media non grata. And Sheila, look at the big picture. Ezra Levant, right? Mm-hmm. Our head honcho, taking time out of his weekend, going to that media conference and asking the questions the trained seals in the mainstream media wouldn't ask. And he says to Baber, your take on this, which is a terrorist attack, anti-Semitism. And that to Roman Baber is two-third rail?
Well, like I said, he could have said, the Toronto police need to step it up, that Olivia Chow needs to step it up, Mark Carney needs to step it up. Like, we just threw one over the plate at him, and he didn't even swing at it, which is kind of crazy. That's just being a bad politician. And speaking of bad politicians, let's move ahead to Gary Ananda Sangari.
Oh, the worst.
How's that for a segue, Sheila? Gary Ananda Sangari. So Ezra had the pleasure of encountering my latest muse in the Liberal Party, Gary Ananda Sangari, the Liberal Public Safety Minister, who, while synagogues are shot up and anti-Semitism runs amok and Canada's progressive cities devolve into Mogadishu-style war zones, his focus seems to be on me and my firearms. Ezra was able to confront Gary Ananda Sangari about a recent letter from Israel's Minister of Diaspora Affairs. So that's the minister who concerns themselves with Jews abroad and the treatment of Jews abroad. A warning about the threats of terrorism in Canada. And Gary Ananda Sangari pulls a Roman Baber, if you will. Let's watch.
Minister, did you get that letter from Amichai Chikli, the Minister of Diaspora Affairs? He sent you a letter warning about terrorism in Canada. Are you going to reply to his letter, sir? Why are you running away?
Yeah, but you know what? We got a public safety minister, Sheila, who has to recuse himself from the file of the Tamil Tiger terrorists because, he was involved in allegedly trying to get citizenship for some of those reprobates. How is he? I mean, even if you're a liberal, please reach out to us in the super chat. Why is he being tolerated in that position? I mean, this is a liability. That is the worst portfolio, Sheila, I think Gary, whose last name is unpronounceable to me, could hold. And I have no idea what's in Carney's head maintaining him there, unless it's kowtowing to a certain voter base.
Well, are you telling? Well, and frankly, that's how he got the nomination.
Of course,
he was able, and I think the Sri Lankan Foreign Ministry actually wrote a letter to Justin Trudeau when Ananda Sangari won the nomination in that riding, raising their concerns about his sympathy for terrorists. And I think it was Dan McTeague. Yep. He was a Liberal MP in that riding prior, but Ananda Sangari started fishing from the Tamil Pond and was able to move that vote block in the nomination and win it in a guaranteed Liberal riding. So it's bad when a foreign ministry is warning you about your future public safety minister. Yeah, his two files really are terrorism and firearms.
Yep.
He has to recuse himself from certain terror files, and then he doesn't know anything about firearms rights. So, there's nobody else you could put there. Like, nobody. I get it. The talent pool is quite shallow, but come on. There's nobody else? Really?
Sheila, let me tell you that I love Dan McTeague, that served as a Liberal MP for 18 years, I believe. And people are going, oh, you love a Liberal MP. Yes, I do, because he is a classical Liberal. He's not one of these progressive whack jobs that we have dominating the party now. Just like, Stephen Ledrew, the former president of the Liberal Party of Canada, also a classical Liberal.
Right.
They don't recognize their own party.
Right. That Overton window didn't just shift, it ran away.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even on the house anymore. It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how sad.
We've got a post here on X from Gideon Saar. He is the Foreign Affairs Minister of Israel. And he says that he raised concerns about the targeting of synagogues in Toronto with Foreign Minister Anita Anand. He requested that alongside efforts to apprehend the shooters, special measures be taken to increase security for the Jewish community and its institutions, as well as for Israeli diplomats serving in Canada. That's crazy that they think their diplomats are unsafe, but they're probably right to feel that way. We also discussed developments regarding the war with Iran. I praised Canada's statement at the beginning of this is a great sort of ending to his statement. I praised Canada's statement at the beginning of the war, which included an affirmation of Israel's right to defend itself. And then since the beginning of the war, Canada has just been all over the place with its statements. They say maybe the war is illegal, but also maybe we'll join the war. And then nobody talked to us about the war. I don't know what the Canadian government feels about what's happening in Iran right now. And frankly, I don't even care at this point.
You mentioned only 3 positions.
Yeah,
in
sorry,
3 days.
sorry, there's more.
Yeah, that was a bad week for Carney last week, Sheila. It was 5 different positions in 5 days. I kid you not. You can do your research. You know, supporting the war, and then the next day saying we regretfully support the war. And I can't even come up with all the different positions. But here's what's ominous, as there are rumors of a spring election or an election in fall perhaps this year. You've got a prime minister who had 5 positions in 5 days, and there's a radio station, a talk radio station called News Talk 1010, and you know, their best host, Jerry Agar, has a poll on a communications play where he invites the listeners to weigh in. And it's not about the politics, it's about the communications. It's co-hosted with Bob Reid. And the question was Carney's positioning, was his, you know, communication strategy a touchdown or a fumble? Sheila, 66% touchdown.
What?
Yes. You know, Lady Menzies almost drove off the road into a ditch. You know, so this is what we're dealing with.
This is why we want to leave. Like I see that and I'm like, we are in 2 different Canadas. You guys are living in one, I'm in a different one.
Yeah.
Because, that's crazy.
So somehow the boomers think changing your mind 5 times in 5 days is a solid communication strategy. I have no words.
I would ask these liberal voting Toronto area boomers, don't write me letters if you voted for Poilievre. Stop it. I'm not talking about you. Just stop it. I know. But I would ask them, well, what is Carney's position?
Yeah.
If you think his communication strategy is great, what exactly is he communicating? Because I watch this stuff for a living and I don't have a damn clue.
No, I don't know. And are we to assume his position is the 5th statement he made?
I don't know.
Or maybe any day now or any minute he's going to open his mouth, offer a 6th position statement. But yeah, I don't know, you know. And Sheila, we talked about this on Friday, Drea and I and Dan Boardman. If I was Prime Minister Mark Carney, and we are desperate for that promised trade deal. Remember that? Elbows up. I know that's gone out of vogue.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, and I know we don't have hardly any kind of military, and I don't know, maybe somebody can weigh in and tell me, you know, the snowbirds, can you actually equip them with guns and bombs, or are they just strictly air show props? But just for the symbolism of sending something, even if it was getting the Haida out of dry dock in Hamilton that fought in the Korean War, and send it to the Persian Gulf. A, you are taking the right side in history, and B, you are going to please President Trump by supporting any amount of support, and he will not do that. I wonder why that is.
Because he knows he's got a spring election, and those liberal voting Central and Eastern boomers just hate Trump viscerally from their retirement homes in Florida. Let's just do this last thing on the synagogue issue, and then we'll hit an ad break because we're a little over time, and then we'll move into more Middle Eastern stuff. So Mark Carney, this is his statement on the synagogue attacks. He details that they were assaulted by gunshots. That's a weird way to say they were shot up. He says these criminal anti-Semitic attacks are an assault on the rights of Jewish Canadians to live and pray in safety. They are also fundamental violations of the Canadian way of life. This is where he just starts to lie, though. The federal government will use every tool available to confront anti-Semitic violence and hatred and protect places of worship. You will, eh? Canada's new government has introduced legislation to strengthen the criminal code, protect our communities, and combat hate. So that's the anti-hate legislation that will catch everybody who says critical things of the government, but doesn't actually do anything to deal with what's before us. Federal agencies, including the RCMP, will use every resource to support law enforcement to identify the perpetrators of these crimes and bring them to the full weight of justice. Oh, they will, hey? The federal government has a lot of tools that they can use to make sure that this sort of thing never happens again, or at least to mitigate the potential for it to ever happen again. One of those is dealing with this out-of-control immigration problem that we have, especially migration from places that are incompatible with our values, but they're not.
On that point, Sheila, well, first of all, I'll tell you why migration is out of control. It's the same reason why under Biden, the Democrats allowed the southern border to be an open sieve, and as many as 21 million got into the U.S. illegally. And it's all about putting party before country. Yep. And we know, to go back to the boomers, and I'm not saying all boomers, hey, I'm a boomer, barely, right, but I didn't vote for the Liberals. The Liberals might be evil, but they're not stupid. So they know this demographic is literally going to die off. It's getting older and older. So what do? You replace that biggest demographic voting base with another demographic, i.e. people from all over the world coming in here. And the unspoken agreement, the quid pro quo, is do what you want here, just every 4 years, check Team Red. Vote Liberal. In the U.S., it was vote blue, Democrat. That's what's going on here. The second thing is when Carney, C is for Carney and C is for contradiction. When he said shooting up those synagogues, Sheila, was an assault on the Canadian way of life. Yeah, but wait a minute. Didn't he say a few months ago Muslim values are Canadian values? I mean, and what do you mean by that? Like Sharia law? I mean, I'm confused, Sheila. Please try to educate this bear of little brain what our prime minister is trying to communicate.
Well, and not only that, as we were saying in the morning call when we were talking about this issue, it's not even that these new Canadians who are not yet Canadian are able to vote in our elections. That they don't even need that.
Yep.
The Liberal Party allows non-citizens to vote in their nominations. It's how they were able to get certain members of Parliament nominated in some ridings in Toronto with an influx of foreign students from busing in Chinese students from outside the riding, like minors, because you don't have to be 18 and you don't have to be a resident of Canada. And so that means that they can also select the leader, which means that non-citizens will select the prime minister in our Westminster parliamentary system. And with that also comes, as is the case with Gary Ananda Sangari, fundraising.
Yeah.
So it is to the benefit of the Liberal Party. Now, they will run into a wall with this, and it might happen sooner rather than later, because a lot of these new imports to our country are social conservatives. And so the Liberals are going to have to walk a very fine line on their progressive trans madness and other things, because they're going to hit a wall when their vote base becomes vastly socially conservative. So, and it won't be my problem. Hopefully Alberta won't be here, and it can happen to a nicer bunch anyway. So I don't care.
It won't be my problem either. I'll probably be dead and still won't get to see the Leafs winning a Stanley Cup. And that means I'm going to win a bet, or at least Lady Menzoid will get the check. But to your point, Sheila, about the Liberal Party allowing non-citizens to vote in nomination meetings, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. That's not my agenda here. But do we know of any other country in the world that allows this? Non-citizens voting for, in effect, who could be the future leader of the country?
I don't know. And I know that it has been a thing that conservative parties across the country have been moving to change in their latest AGMs or their latest conventions. I know in Alberta, also in Saskatchewan. So previously it had been, if you were here, you could get involved. And some parties are making the change that must only be a Canadian citizen, or at least a permanent resident on the pathway to become a citizen. So somebody who came here the right way, chose this country, followed all the rules, and is making best efforts to become a Canadian citizen, they will allow them to vote in the noms, but not the Liberals. They're just doing what they do.
And you know what's amazing, Sheila, as I've covered a few times in beautiful Brampton, Ontario, when we have demonstrations by international students and temporary foreign workers, key in on that T word, temporary, means the opposite of permanent, means you go back. Not only are they demanding citizenship, but in terms of being ingrates, they use the leftist talking points. Nobody is illegal on stolen land.
Great,
Canada is a nation full of haters and racists, to which I ask these people, why would you want to move to such a horrible country?
Right,
Stolen
you don't
land.
have to go home. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Get out. Get out. You hate it? Get out.
And the other question, Sheila, I love is if I were to fly to India, because most of these people are from India, and for whatever reason I fell in love with New Delhi, I don't want to go back. I want Indian citizenship. Could I demand that there? And you know what the response is, Sheila? It's not the same thing. It's precisely the same.
No, it's exactly that. It's the exact same thing. Yeah, and again, we've got this sort of stuff on our referendum docket in October in Alberta. Danielle Smith put a whole host of immigration topics on the referendum, putting it to the people of Alberta, because we look and we see what's happening in the rest of the country. And, if we decide to stay, we need to insulate ourselves from the problems of Toronto and Montreal and the greater Vancouver area. We just don't want that for us. We see it. We don't like it. We don't want it.
I can't get into the mind of an Albertan that would vote against separation or becoming the 51st state, for that matter, unless I'm talking about those Albertans that vote Liberal federally.
Right, crazy ones.
But other than that, I think this is a very real proposition. And by the way, folks, I'm going to plug Sheila Gunn Reid's new book. It's a must read, beautifully written, and a real page turner. I just started it, I'll be honest, but from what I read, there we go. The Independence Blueprint, what Alberta can learn from Quebec. Oh, Quebec must be so envious of Alberta right now.
They really are. They really are. Their leaders have said as much. They've said, well, oil and gas isn't a culture. So you can just feel the envy that if somebody is going to seriously actually leave, it will be Alberta before they ever do. Because for them, it's about culture and language. For us, it's culture, language, economics, survival, unfair treatment within Confederation. So it's all of their things plus a whole bunch more. They don't actually want to leave there. They just want more money. We just want to keep our own.
Yeah, and 2 points. One is, if oil and gas isn't a real culture, well, my response to Quebecers who believe that, turn off the oil and gas when winter hits and see how your culture deteriorates in Quebec. It gets really frigid there. And the other thing to always be careful about with the Quebecers on the separation warpath, and Sheila, I believe the demographic changes since the last referendum, 95, are too severe now that separation is a pipe dream. But be very wary of the words sovereignty association.
Right.
That means we're independent, but we still have our index finger in the Canadian till to profit from, the medical health system, supply management. No. You're either in or out. No one better buy that caveat.
Also, oil and gas is a culture, by the way.
Yeah.
It is a culture. It is a mentality of hard work, self-sacrifice, long hours away from home. There's language, lingo, and accent to it. There's, if you've been to Northern Alberta, and sometimes give me 3 Michelob Ultras and you'll hear it from me too. It's just, it comes out. There's a way of speaking that just makes its way out. And there's a Northern Alberta accent and a Southern Alberta accent. You can hear it. So yeah, by the way, oil and gas is a culture and it's worth preserving.
And also, Sheila, I know rodeo is huge in Alberta.
Yes.
What does Quebec say about that? Because I always interpreted rodeo as being an embracement and a remembrance of Western culture. When
it's a celebration, it's a competition of Western culture.
So what's their position on that? That's phony baloney stuff too?
Yeah, they probably think it's just hillbilly stuff, which is fine. Hillbilly is a culture too. But yeah, it's a celebration of the things that built this place and the things that still feed you, by the way.
Did I ever tell you, Sheila, in May 1985, I rode a bull at the Smoky Lake Rodeo?
I was 6.
I almost died. And by the way, I got a bone to pick. This is kind of like the airing of the grievances during Festivus. I turned on the bull riding competition on TV the other day, and these cats are now wearing helmets, cages, flak jackets. I had none of that, Sheila.
I can tell. Okay, let's hit an ad break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll talk about Mark Carney talking to Donald Trump and saying that they're going to continue to talk.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us, Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
There's one seat left in the movie theater. It's in the front row. You have a bad neck. This is what we call a last resort. If your most recent electricity bill says the rate of last resort, then your rate is like the front row seat in the movie theater. It will serve its purpose, but there are likely better options available.
Okay, we've got a quick message from our friends at Rumble Wallet. They can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it, don't they? That's why financial independence matters now more than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family when the system fails. When institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics, it's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today, download Rumble Wallet now, and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. All right, let's get into, I guess, Mark Carney talking with President Trump. He thought this was worthy of a post on X for some reason. I'm just bringing up the post so I can read it to you. And then you can tell me what actually he said here, because it's a whole lot of nothing. And I can tell by the M dash that, because he doesn't normally write that. He doesn't normally write that way. I read values, and he doesn't write that way. People of a certain age do use an M dash. I do in my writing. I know Ezra does in his writing, but if you're under 30 and you use an M dash, I know that's ChatGPT, so just stop it. But Mark Carney says, I spoke with President Trump this morning on a range of issues, including the economy, developments in the Middle East, and trade relations between our two countries, and we agreed to stay in close contact. What does that mean?
Oh, I'll tell you what that means, Sheila. That means Mark Carney has been caught in a lie. Does anyone believe the president is in close contact with Mark Carney? I mean, Carney wasn't even advised of the raid on Iran going back just over a week ago. So how's that for close contact? Define close contact. Does that mean getting, I don't know, a postcard every 3 months? That's my takeaway. That is a lie.
Yeah, I want the American Reid out of that call. Like, if that call happened and it wasn't just like Trump going, yeah, okay, Mark, okay, Mark, okay, Mark, okay, okay, bye. I want the American Reid out of that call. I would love to see that. We're running out of time. I can go a little late today, but we're running out of time. David, I will let you pick the next topics, and we have to get to the headliners.
Yeah, why don't we go to something that got, I think, over 1 million views already, and it was our beloved colleague Alexandra Lavoie, confronting, Islamist supporters. There was I guess, jihad in Montreal rally. She's got 2 videos here. I'll leave it up to super producer Olivia which one to air. But again, it's important we show this, folks, because you ain't seeing this on the mainstream media. Not a chance.
Long live Antifada! Long live Antifada! Long live the resistance! Long live the resistance! Resistance is justified! Resistance is justified! Resistance is justified! One solution! One solution! Et tout le monde déteste les sionistes! Tout le monde déteste les sionistes!
Just a perfectly normal weekend in Montreal these days, actually.
Yep. And of course, the police do nothing, no matter how many laws are broken. I mean, you know, I kind of say to myself, I know it's not in our jurisdiction, but where's ICE when you really need them? I bet you they'd have their paddy wagons full with these reprobates. The other thing I noticed, Sheila, young kids, a woman with a baby carriage. Why would you bring your children to a gross hate fest? But I guess I know the answer as you do, Sheila, whether it's marketers on Madison Avenue or Islamists peddling their death cult. Get them young, get them forever.
Well, and there's some, and look, I'm hard on the boomers. I am. But there's also something very wrong with my demographic. You know, like the middle-aged, middle-class white lady.
Oh, yes.
There's something very wrong with them. They're happy to bring their kids to these hate marches. They will put their kids in daycare so that they can harass ICE officers on the streets.
Yep.
They will advocate for a less safe country for their own children for the sake of being a progressive culture warrior. And it's disgusting.
Yep.
Something wrong with my cohort.
You know, my theory is, Sheila, with that creature known as the white liberal woman of a certain age.
I saw one in medicine hat and it, like right down to the hairdo. And I was like, this isn't good for me because I fall into the, like, I've got to stereotype everybody. And then she shows up with her like rooster hair, 2-color rooster hair, spiky at the back. And I'm like, lady, what are you doing? Like, this isn't good for me. You need to show up looking a little different. She looked like she came from Central Casting to protest us.
They always do, Sheila. But my theory is that they have this lust, much like university students who have a complete non-knowledge of the Middle East. They want to be part of what they see as something big and revolutionary and people power. It's like Che Guevara for our age. And
Right.
Che Guevara, by the way, was a cowardly terrorist who died shamefully in Bolivia.
Yeah.
And they don't bother to do the research. They just drink the Kool-Aid, and they think they are an agent of change. Maybe they are, but they're on the wrong side of history, but never mind. That's my theory, Sheila.
Yeah, you know, Jordan Peterson has spoken a lot about this, about the clean your bedroom theory. Like,
Yes.
those people are out there trying to change the world, but like their lives are just garbage. Like, it's just, they live in squalor, they're paycheck to paycheck, you know, career student baristas, fighting with their parents. Look, I can tell by some of their hairdos that they have bad relationships with their dads. Like, I can see it. And so, you know, they, instead of dealing with their own issues, they try to change the world on a very shallow surface level. They have no understanding of it. And if they worked in concentric circles out from themselves, they'd make a lot of progress and understand the world a little better. But that requires work and introspection, and these people don't want to do any of that. And discipline. They don't want that either.
And Sheila, speaking of hair, why is it that, and I'm appreciative, it's like when you see a skunk in the wilderness, you know, that white stripe down the tail, you know to back off, bucko. But what is it about, it's either pink hair dye or light blue hair dye?
No, yeah, it's always something, right? And that's why Lisa and I call them poison dart frog people, is because poison dart frogs are brightly colored and they're poisonous, and you should stay away from them. And that's how it works in the kingdom of nature.
Yeah.
And there's a strong overlay to the culture war and politics. When you see something that is startlingly brightly colored coming at you, and it isn't Lise Merle, then you should run the other way. Always.
I love Lise Merle. I'll tune in tomorrow to see you and her work your magic.
Perfect.
You know, Sheila, believe it or not, we're all out of racetrack. Of course, we have some super chats, I assume, and the cringe video of the day, if we have one.
Yeah. You know, first let's go to this from Icons. I want to get to this because it's in the headliner.
Okay.
Nova Scotia's largest source of funding for amateur sport is Support for Sport. And this is their International Women's Day video. And let's just show the video. And you guys can tell me what's wrong with the video. Okay, David, you can tell me what's wrong with the video. You'll know instantly. I realize I have a bit of a husky voice. I've got this horrible cold that just won't go away. It keeps coming back in crazy ways. So my voice sounds a little bit rough, but pay attention to the voice because there's some Madam's Apple action happening in this video.
No.
Watch. This is the International Women's Day video.
Don't tell me.
What does access to sport look like for you?
Accessible sport looks like versatile sport that can accommodate athletes of all kinds of different abilities. And it also looks like sport that's welcoming, sport that is safe, sport that is inclusive. Accessibility cuts so many different ways to so many different folks that given I want sport to be just maximally experienced, it needs to be maximally accessible and maximally inclusive.
That's a rugby player, by the way. Rugby, of course.
Yeah, there's something about the rugby culture, Sheila. That's not a one-off. I don't understand. I know you're intimate with rugby culture, given your magnificent daughter's efforts there. I'll cut to the chase. To quote Austin Powers in the first movie, it's a man. Yeah. That is their listen, all the other accessibility you saw there, the disabled female athlete, an athlete who appears to have Down syndrome, real biological woman. I can't even believe I have to say that as a sentence in 2026, but I have to. I'm on board for all of that.
Yeah.
And then you throw in a man, and
Yeah.
this is your poster child for female accessibility. Somebody threatening women on the field, in the rink, in the change room, in the bathroom, and we saw the horror. Just 2 years ago, less of that Algerian boxer kicking the Shiite out of her opponents in Olympic boxing. And someone on the left thinks this is something to champion. It was unwatchable. It was literally watching violence against a woman.
Domestic violence, it felt like.
Yeah.
It felt like watching domestic violence. Yeah. You want to talk about inclusivity in sports? I want to know more about that little girl with Down syndrome. I want to know what she's accomplished. She, unlike that man who is stealing a women's spot on a rugby team, I want to know about this young girl who has overcome the stigma of being born with Down syndrome from a class of people that is being slowly erased through the horrors of the eugenics of the abortion culture in this country. I want to hear about her accomplishments in sports. I want to hear from the masters athletes who are inspiring a certain generation of women to reclaim their health and their confidence through sport. I want to hear from them. I don't want to hear from some dude who enjoys hitting women on the weekends for fun.
Sheila, I want to hear too, but what I'm hearing, especially from feminism, is the sound of silence. I think I may have done more work on the transgender, so-called trans women invading rugby, swimming, volleyball, you name it. Where is Mama and Papa Bear? I don't know. And and all the sports organizations, they're all captured by wokesters. They're all on board with this. And I'm beginning to question why I'm doing this journalism, Sheila. I don't have daughters. I have sons. I don't have girls who are elite competitive athletes. I think if I did, I'd be, I don't know, behind bars right now. That would be my reaction. And if these people don't care about their own daughters being violated this way, why should I? And one last point, I always go back to as late as the 1960s, you know, women were not allowed to compete in the Boston Marathon. And there would be protests. They would pretend to be spectators, jump the fence and run, and they'd be tackled by Boston's finest. It went from that to having a division for females, which is the standard for marathons the world over. And now those same feminists who took a brave and righteous stance asking for equal treatment are now silent when these so-called trans woman, that's a dude with his wedding tackle still affixed, pretending to be a woman, invade their sports and wreck their sports, wreck everything they accomplished. Oh, I forgot to mention, powerlifting, our good friend, April Hutchinson. So Sheila, try to get me into the head of a female, a feminist who says nothing to see here. Is it a matter of this is too much of a third rail? Or do the modern feminists believe in this crap?
No, I still think this is like an 80-20 issue. And I don't know why Canada is so captured by this. David, I think your advocacy is important. That's why those videos of yours go viral. People are not brave. They must be brave on this topic. Don't forget, if you need inspiration, David Menzies, I suggest you watch the videos of the little girls streaming into the Oval Office when Trump was signing the order to ban biological men from women's sports.
Yes, he restored Title IX. It was one of the first orders of business taking office.
So if you need inspiration about why we must fight on, it's those little girls. And advocacy like yours and April Hutchinson changed the laws in Alberta, protected my girls from having to play against boys again. But in the Sheila, case of my older daughter.
You're 100% right, and I appreciate what you're saying. But with the exception of Alberta, the rest of Canada, is there a future here? If you believe the polls, it's showing that if an election were called today, the Carney Liberals get a majority. I don't know if that's true or not, but it scares the you-know-what out of me.
Well,
so
where's Doug Ford? Where's Doug Ford on this issue? Dad of daughters.
Doug Ford's being captured,
I know.
Doug Ford isn't the premier. He is led around by his handlers by the nose like some circus donkey, He's just so giddy to be the premier. and I understand has aspirations to be the Prime
Good luck.
Minister representing the
Good luck.
Conservatives. And I'll tell you one thing, I'll need one of your comforting talks over a cup of tea if ever I see Doug Ford taking French lessons, because we're doomed if that's the case.
You know what? Again, won't be my problem.
You know,
Won't be my problem. You guys want to have Doug Ford as the Conservative Party leader? Who cares? I don't
you know
care.
what? If only you had better weather, Sheila, because that's the only thing it's Lady Menzoid. I can take the Alberta cold. I did for 2 years, but Lady Menzoid, as you know, even in a hot, humid July day, you touch her inner thigh. Don't ask me how I know this. It feels like a Lake Ontario trout in February. She's originally from Africa, you understand. So if only you had better weather, we'd be there
Do you know
too.
what, though? You tell her that you can afford all kinds of winter gear once you move to Alberta.
Doesn't count.
All right. One more thing before we go, because we have like one chat and it doesn't even have like a chat attached. This is from Maureen on X, and she says she's on the road to Toronto with Coach Blade. Coach Linda Blade, we published her book Unsporting on this topic, how trans activism and science denial are destroying sport. And this was at BVD Petroleum at a gas station. What's BVD? We don't have that.
I once knew that acronym.
We don't have it here.
Or initialism.
Yeah, we don't have it here, but Maureen shows this picture of a gas station bathroom on this topic. So things, they are changing, David Menzies. This washroom is for females only, is the sign on the bathroom door. It says ladies' toilet. Males are not allowed to go inside this washroom. Then for good measure, they put it in, what is that, Sanskrit? And then also in French.
And you're telling me they're not being sued or they're not before a human rights tribunal?
I think we'll go to war for these people.
Oh, I want to go there. I want to do a story on this.
At all costs.
That's BVD. Okay.
BVD. I'm going to send you the tweet, David, and then you can go investigate this.
Where exactly on the road to how far out of Toronto was this? Because you ain't seen that sign in a Toronto gas station.
I don't know. I'm going to send it to you, and then you can track this person down. Maybe send her a message. Maureen, if you're watching, David Menzies wants to talk to you about where this place was.
Please.
Because we must protect this gas station at all costs.
And you know what else we must protect, Sheila? The urinal industry. I have been in a few all-gender washrooms of late because I have no choice. And guess what? There's no urinal anymore. Evidently, the sight of a urinal to a trans woman would be offensive. So it's just toilets now. Well, I want to take a stance for the great industry of urinal production. I like a urinal. You know, you're in and out lickety-split. You don't have to worry about any messes. And for that reason alone, I want to champion washrooms divided by sex.
Yeah, for sure. And I want you, if they are doing this all-gender washroom nonsense, I insist that there's a urinal in there. I don't want you guys anywhere near our toilets.
I understand. I understand.
Yes. Yes. I'm the mother of a son. I know. All right. I think that's it. Let's wrap the show. I've got a video to film on what my video. I'll just give everybody a hint. It's one of those rare times that being the ugly stepchild of Confederation worked in our benefit during COVID. And this is based on Access documents. So that's good. I guess, you know, we complain a lot and we rightfully should. But the Public Health Agency of Canada couldn't do the things that they wanted to do to us because they forgot that we existed.
You mean, wait a minute, you mean even with Jason Kenney as premier?
Yeah.
That's the Christmas miracle.
I know. I know. I'm like, 3 cheers for government ineptitude. Thank you very much.
Well, I can't wait. What a teaser that is, Sheila. Right. So looking forward to the whole enchilada when you produce it. And folks, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for that news tip, by the way, from Maureen. I will investigate that if I can find out.
We've got one chat before we run away.
Sorry.
Alistair V6R7Z gives us £5 British.
Oh.
What is that?
What's that?
Almost
About
10 bucks
25 Canadian dollars, or
Yeah, it's like 10 bucks in Canadian pesos. But his message was retracted, so maybe if we find out, we can read it tomorrow.
Retracted by whom?
The author of the post.
Oh, okay. I thought there's somebody
Second
in
thoughts.
Ottawa.
Hey, Alistair.
Okay. Well, thank you for those £5 much appreciated. Well, folks, that was a lot of fun today, I thought. Please tune in tomorrow. The sensational Sheila Gunn Reid will be co-hosting with the lovely Lise Merle. And believe me, to meet Lise Merle is to love that woman. She is just such a gem. And I think I'll be back on Friday for the live stream roundtable. So panel discussion, no less. We always get an interesting guest or two on that one. So make a note of that, please. In the meantime, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
You said explicitly it's in our interest that the regime is replaced. Will you say explicitly whether you support what the U.S. and Israel have been doing and whether you believe that any of it is in accordance with international law?
Well, we already said that. We support the action to overturn the regime, because this is a regime that has killed Canadians. They killed over 100 Canadians. They have 700 agents on Canadian streets terrorizing our Persian and Jewish communities, carrying out terrorist attacks against our people. This is the biggest state sponsor of terror in the world. That is why we have not equivocated. We also need to focus on what we control at home, which is here at home, to secure our borders against these terrorists, to bring down energy costs and food prices for our people. And that's what we as Conservatives are going to do here at home.